Episode 46 of the Construction Dorkcast. There isn't much to say here. We gathered to celebrate the life of Buck Davis. This was a very hard episode to do, but we still had some laughs remembering the love and passion Buck brought to the industry. Buck, you're very much missed. This episode is titled Make Friends and Help People in Your Honor.
And we're live. Episode 46, a tribute to Buck Davis. And as I usually do, I'm going to change the name as we go right in because per Buck, this is make friends and help people. That's what this episode's all about. So outside of our normal, I'm going to just propose a toast to Buck. You were one of the first people I ever met in this industry, man. This is going to be hard. You welcomed me in. You made me feel at home. You were larger than life, man. Huge. And you made everybody feel like they were the most important person in the room. And if I can tell one story to start this thing that's Buck in a nutshell, I go back to Autodesk University, 2017. I just started with the team at the crew. And we're about to go live at the beginning. And Rob McKinney's down and out, can't do it. And it's supposed to be me and James. And then James goes down and he can't do it. And who do we call? But we call Buck. From across the room, he comes running, setting up the BIM box booth on BIM Street, leaves the booth, runs over, jumps in, looks at the fear in my eyes and just says, "We got this, man. Let's go." And I knew from that minute on that he was going to be an important part of my life. And there were so many times with that, so many times I shared the stage with him. And we really did. I mean, Buck, we put the crew in the trio, man. The Contech crew would not exist if it wasn't for Buck and I. And I got to ride that wave with him and right there. And, you know, to me, he was more than a friend, a brother, an inspiration, and a thought leader, man. Like the truly thing that he was, you know, his passion for geeking out on graphics cards and processors. I'm going to admit this to you now, brother. Half the time I didn't know what the heck it was you were talking about. And I was having to Google it and look it up. And I mean, I was on stage with him at MCAA as a presentation on, you know, performance testing. And you want to see somebody who loses it on performance testing. That guy lost it when it came to performance testing. It was almost unnatural. Mm-hmm. So, and I know, you know, all I can say, man, is I hope you're at peace, man. And we miss you, but we'll keep pimming out and doing the things that we can do here to keep your memory alive. Cause we love you, man. I love you. I miss you. You know, I know his parents are listening in, and his son Rhett was one of the most important things in the world to him. And before I turn this over to other people, I got this today, and I just wanted to take a moment of silence for him while this runs, and maybe raise your glasses and whatever it is you got out there. This is to you, brother. Red, this is for your dad. We loved him. We love you. And we're here for you, man. And I hope these stories that these guys are going to tell can come close to telling you how much of an impact he had on all of us, because he did, man. He did.
Yeah. Cheers.
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 And man, this is going to be tough. And with that, if any one of the other dorks wants to toast, feel free as I start to look at who's got their hands raised and go through that.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell, you know, my Buck story. After a few times of meeting him at different events and just kind of realizing what a great dude he was. that's when we first started our journey of exploring what BIMBox might be able to do for us. And he probably spent 4 months on the phone, 4 months on Zooms, on back and forth emails. Like you're saying with the benchmarking and the testing, our IT staff was a little hesitant about going with a startup company to provide the hardware. So we probably bought a half dozen other types of computers and took a BIMBox, and we took it through all of its paces. And then he came to our office for 2 days and went through all the numbers, sat down with every person that had any sort of doubt, and just took a really, really deep dive. And, I think the hardware in what Buck built there, really kind of spoke for itself, but I'm pretty sure it was his passion that sold it. I mean, just the passion and the belief that he had in what he was doing, that's what won everybody over. So, even people in our company that only had that one interaction with Buck when he came there, like they were just stunned. He was such, like you say, he's just larger than life. He was just such a big loving guy. It's sad to see, or sad to hear that he's gone.
Yeah, he never left us wondering what kind of support we were going to get out of the machines. That's for sure. If somebody valued the relationship over their time, I mean, he definitely valued that relationship over the time. I mean, it was, to get that kind of support out of another company, to spend that kind of time on something would have been an astronomical expense. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
I know there were stories when he was trying to get things going and, didn't have all the support. Like you would ship him back a BIMBox. I'm pretty sure he was fixing it in his garage.
I know he was. Yeah. I mean, he had told me, but yeah.
He met me with
crazy.
parts in an airport once.
One of my favorite Buck stories that is one of the adventures I went on with him while he was doing one of those client engagements, and how in the moment he always was. I was actually on the phone with him one night, and I'm in Dallas and he was on the West Coast, and we were talking about small business things, both of us being small companies. And then just out of left field, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I have to go to New York for a meeting. Want to go?" And I'm like, "It's my hometown." I'm like, "I always want to go back to New York, but Buck, what are we going to do in New York?" He's like, "I'm going to meetings, and these relationships are going to be awesome. Come with me, talk to these people while I show them these computers." So he and I meet at LaGuardia he's got these giant BIMBox computers. And then we cram into an Uber for 15 minutes, like with computers on our laps, kind of like this. Anyways, we go to the meetings, it's whatever. And then we have like a great dinner because it's Buck and myself. And that's what we do when we're traveling. But then the best part of the story is I lose Buck. We have dinner, we're sitting around having a drink or two. He's like, "Hey, I got to take a phone call." And he disappears for a few minutes, and he's outside. I see him walking around on the phone. It gets to be kind of late. I'm like, "Hey, we got a flight at 6 a.m. I'm going to roll back to the hotel." "Okay, I'll see you in a few." Didn't see him again. And I actually get to the airport the next day and he's not there. And I'm texting him like, "Come on, buddy, where are you? The plane's going to leave." And I end up talking to him a few days later, and it took him an extra 48 hours to get home because he just was, he met some folks and then they got to talking, and then it gets to be late. And then everyone's having such a good time that it just kept going. And I just laugh because even going to those meetings and just that whole spur of the moment, "What are you doing tomorrow? Come with me." And we would go, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So
it's so spontaneous.
Can't replace a guy like that.
No, Aaron, you really can't. And for anyone listening, and that was Aaron Mahler. So Aaron, thanks for coming on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the first time I met Buck, I totally misjudged him. I was standing at AU, and he was standing beside me, and we were looking at like point clouds on a machine, and I was just staring at him like, "Yeah, that takes me a really long time to register all that." And he went off for 35 minutes on what exactly I had to do to make that better. And I lost track of him at least minute 5, but like at minute 5, I felt like I was totally nerded out and understood everything about computers. And this guy like blows me away. And then at the very end, and it probably was like 10, 15 minutes, he introduced himself. He's like, "Oh, and I'm Buck." And then he walks away. It's like, okay. I just met Buck Davis. Apparently, I need to go build my own computers now because no one does it right. He was awesome.
He was awesome.
Hey everyone.
Brett.
Hey, Brad.
What's going on, Brett?
Not too bad. Wouldn't have missed this for anything. I was very surprised that I was picked second as well. So I'll be very, very quick. You know, unlike a lot of people in this room, I had only known Buck for maybe 10 months, 11 months, right? Like I didn't know him at the level that anyone in this meeting probably knows him, but he was so inspiring that not only did I want to hang out with him, but I wanted to work with him, right?
Yeah.
And it took 3 or 4 conversations between me and him, and it sounds like he was this way with everyone, to not only hit it off, but to be talking about things that propose value to our industry and things that were interesting to us, right? I mean, the lines between work and a good time with Buck were always almost non-existent, right? Like, they're the same thing to him, right? And I just wanted to jump in and say, I really, I normally am not at a loss for words, and everyone knows that, but it seemed like we were heading down this path of, like, I'm going to start my journey with this person. And unfortunately, everything went down this way. But boy, while he was here, I never doubted his ability to come and join us and be effective for a nanosecond. And not only that, but to immediately be immersed in the culture. And he was just someone I really wanted to work with, and someone that I think it's a shame that I didn't get to know him better. And for all of you that have spent years with him, I mean, what a loss. So my son, I don't know if you've seen him in the background. I've got a 6-year-old myself, and to know, what that does and how this video can help him in the future and understand how valuable his father was to all of us, I think is really important. So thank you for letting me speak. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brett, thank you. Because that is what it's about. It's about his son. It's about the family. It's about his memory. And you're right, man. It didn't matter, but it didn't matter if you knew Buck for 5 minutes or you knew him for 50 years.
It really didn't.
I felt like I knew him for 50 years. And I when everything happened, I was like, I really haven't known this guy that long, but I feel like I do.
Yeah, but you didn't. And that's the beauty.
Yeah. And he was just, the few nights I spent with them, it just blends right in. You talk business, 5 o'clock hits, business turns into fun. And like Aaron said, it's 10:30 at night and you're trying to escape and you can't. So, it was very cool stuff. And I appreciate you guys allowing me to talk today.
Of course, Brad, of
Thank
course.
you.
And it's not that you just didn't want it to end. That was the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that it didn't, it's just that it didn't have to. So thanks, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Chad Pearson,
My man,
my brother, man.
What's going on?
but under different circumstances. Matt, so first of all, I got a lot of stories, but I just want to say one, and it's the first time that I met him. Huntington Beach, I think it was like 8 years ago. Might have even been longer. But I was doing my first live presentation the next day, and I was being extremely responsible. I'm like, I'm going to bed after the show ended. I'm going to bed. I'm walking out. And Buck saw me that day, and he's like, yo, you and I need to talk, because we had a mutual customer in the works. And I was like, okay, sure. Walking by the hotel bar, and all I hear is Buck, hey, Chad. And I walked up and I'm like, man, let's talk tomorrow. I'm really tired. And he goes, no, you're not. And all of a sudden, I wasn't tired. I wasn't. For those of you who know me, like, I'm really responsible, especially with the presenting. And man, he just said, no, you're not. Now, fast forward 2.5 hours later, I'm texting Jeff Sample, sending him pictures of Buck and I. This a really weird scenario now that I'm saying it out loud, because I'm texting Jeff Sample pictures of Buck and I smashing back drinks in a hot tub, watching the sunset together.
I'll never forget it, man. Getting
Yeah.
the pictures and going, "Where's my invite? Come on!"
But yeah, I went from no, man, I'm tired. And as soon as he looked at me and said, "No, you're not," something happened to me. I was just invigorated. I had all this energy, and that basically is Buck.
That
That's
is
him.
Buck for
He
sure.
does that. He does that to everyone in the room. That's what I love about him.
Yeah, it's like a jolt of adrenaline. Like you're almost just feeling his adrenaline.
Yeah.
Kurt just put in the text every freaking time. So it's not just
It wasn't just you, man. It
yeah,
wasn't
and
just
so I'm
you.
sipping this grappa because when we were at the bar, I had some grappa. I gave it to him, and he's like, "This is the worst thing I've ever drank." But I'm having it because it's you. So, anyways, so cheers to him.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
It does suck. I don't even know why I'm drinking this.
It turns out he was right.
He was right. He knows a lot of things.
That's a lot of stuff you learned later on that Buck, you were right. It's
You know, man, I'd always look at him and I'd be like, you are way too cool to be a nerd. How can you
That's-
be this nerdy and that cool? Like,
It's
seriously, like
exactly
when you
true.
met him, it's like, you are way too cool to be a
Yeah.
nerd. I don't believe your nerdhood.
100%. Yeah.
And then he'd floor you.
like, show me your nerd card, and then
Right.
Yes,
He
no, but
just-
he'd like be like, yes. And then I'll show you my cool card and then we'll go out there.
he'll be like, "I'm a member of both clubs.
Yeah.
Right.
You're done."
Mm.
He definitely
Uh,
was. Yeah.
I have a special spot in my heart for the person that we just brought on, because you know what? I met the two of you pretty much the same time. Like, when I think of him and meeting him, I think of you. So, Alexi, you're on mute. Unmute you and tell your stories.
Oh man, there's a lot of them. But I think the biggest one isn't so much a story. Oh, I mean, hell, the first time I met him, I was like, "Who is this mutant who looks like he's straight out of some frat house?" I was like, "This is not like the stereotypical type person we see at conferences." And I was like, "Oh, you got to be Buck. You got to be Buck." I come back from maternity leave. Had a good chit chat with him, and like quickly ascertained that we both had a very low threshold for baloney, shall we say, as my child is present in the industry. I connected really well right away. But Buck is one of the very, very few people, I could count him on one hand, that really made me believe in myself. Really, he made me dream way bigger than I ever would on my own. I'm almost embarrassed to say, but he really helped me understand my own skill set and made me dream bigger. He was just an awesome dude.
Really was it.
Really.
He made you realize the power within.
Yeah. And he had that, you know, oh gosh, so weird to say he had that, he had that excitement and just that zest that everyone, it was like plugging into a battery socket. Like he lit everyone up with energy that he spoke to. It was impossible not to be excited about something after chatting with Buck.
He was very infectious with all that. Like,
It was totally infectious. And that's why you never left his side late at night when he just had that. Yeah, exactly. It was that like pull, that aura.
Mm.
Like, this guy's having a good time and this is where I want to be. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
And think about it. Then we'd see him the next day, the next morning, and he was cruising. And you're
Yeah.
going, "Man, I can't even catch your coattails."
Wow. You know, you need Buck's Pedialyte. That's why.
There you
Hey,
go.
My
hey,
best
Lexi,
trick.
this is for you guys. I
Oh.
did mix this one up for you guys.
Did you make a Pedialyte drink?
I did. Hey,
That's awesome.
I was just waiting for somebody else to drop it because it was BIM Street that this really came about. But at some point in time, ask anybody from the BIM Street group how you better get down at AU than Pedialyte. It's
And
the only way to go.
Something mixed with it, but yeah.
Well, let's
Well.
just say it wasn't riding Pedialyte alone, but oh man. Yeah, Alexi, I couldn't not do it. I had to have it.
If that was a secret, then we should all be drinking Pedialyte like every
Right.
day. Because
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
There's a couple of occasions where it came in handy, I will say.
Yeah.
Hopefully a few more down the road, just in case. Next time we're all together, you never know now when that Pedialyte bottle is going to come out, just to throw a throwback. You know, who knew it'd be a throwback? But yeah, he walked me down Pim Street to meet you guys. That's where we all met. Aaron, you were there. Lexine, you were there. You know, this is my intro to this thing that it is. You know, like think about the glue of people.
And that was that,
Mm.
friends helping friends, people helping people. And that was the BIM Street vibe, man. It was, everyone's out fundraising crazy amounts of money. Are we ever going to see something like that again? I don't know. It was very special vibes. And
Yeah.
I think Buck's ethos was really at the center of that.
I think it's important to make a note of that just right there is, you look around at, the dorks we've got here and everybody and the people that are in the chat. And I mean, when it comes to our industry, we have a lot of really, really, really successful people sitting here right now that are at the top of their game. And we're all here because of that same mantra that Buck is, because we all help each other. We all have each other's backs. We've built this together. That's why we are where we are. No single one of us got here on our own. This is just a complete group effort.
For sure.
So, and he was the one that said that earlier than anyone. So I got to thank him for that.
Yeah.
Because I probably have a little bit of him to thank for what I've accomplished in life, for sure.
Oh man, I know I do.
Definitely.
There's many a day where I didn't think I could do it either. And he kicked me out onto the stage or onto the microphone and said, just go get him, man. And, like you said, there was, we all have our ups and our downs. We were going out in those times and getting funding and doing all those things. And, life is what it is. And he turned to you and say, yo, I got you, bro. I got you, bro. We're all right. I got you. And you just knew it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember on my wedding day, we had like a bunch of random people all together. And it was like good people. When my friends came up to me, also drunk at 2 a.m. and said, good people attract good people. And that's exactly what Buck did. Not just that, but he intentionally joined them. I met a lot of y'all through Buck, and that's going to last. That's going to last. That's a legacy that's going to last.
Yeah. It will.
It will.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Forrest, man.
Ooh, this is hard, man. I got my box of tissue. Jonathan, that's the sentiment I had. My Buck memory. I've always been like the island of misfit toys, probably why I do this for a living. And I've always felt like my recorded voice, whenever I hear it, sounds like a drunk Muppet. And I've got horrible hair and I weigh too much. And I just never really feel like I'm that cool.
Are you describing me?
And
We're all feeling convicted here.
Going up on stage at a Contact road show, and I was like freaking out. I felt sick. My hands are shaking. I'm like, nobody wants to hear me talk. And Buck's like, dude, you got this. And gave me a little bit of a pep talk. And I got through it. And that was my first kind of exposure to it. And it was like, meeting Buck, I'd seen him, I'd heard him, I'd listened to you guys' podcast. And it was like meeting Michael Jackson in the BIM world, And I was so proud to have someone that good looking, that cool as one of us. So
his confidence in other people, man, his confidence in you, when he's with you, if you said something like, maybe I'll do this, he's like, what do you mean? Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and he didn't even have to say it. He just looked at you. He was like, of course you're going to do this. And the fact that he didn't doubt it made it so much easier. So much
You know, another
easier.
cool thing he did for me is he wrote my boss an email directly so I could buy a BIM box. I wish I could dig that thing up. It was my past employer, but you know, because like they want you to go do this stuff on a $1,500 laptop.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't, you know, I'm only as good as my computer. And I got it. And I used that thing for like 4.5 years. Best computer I ever owned.
Yeah. Mine's still running strong. 3.5 years on the last one I bought. Yeah. For sure.
Thanks, everybody.
Nah,
thank
Forrest,
you.
thank you,
Thank you.
man. He gave us all that energy.
That's one way you really changed the industry too, though, man. Like he was the guy that went out there in front of everybody and said, hey, listen, all of these people that are suffering while they're waiting and whose lives are spent in front of a screen that's not moving, you need to change that. And it's going to make you a ton of money. And then he said, not only do you need to change it, but here's how you can change it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't lying, right? Like,
How much money is employee retention?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
for
had
sure.
that. I had that same conversation with him because we spoke all the time about improving construction workers' lives by getting them nice tools, and he was always like, "What's the?" He's like, "What's the freaking difference?" You know, he's like, "Why would you not give the other guy the same advantages the people in the
Exactly.
field?" You know, it's you're giving them the ability to actually enjoy themselves and be productive. Yeah, absolutely.
Making lives better, man.
That's right.
That's what it's all about. That's how we get things done.
Helping each other out.
Christian.
Well, that was quick. I'm a little nervous here today. Well, first I want to say, you know, I spoke to Buck like maybe 3 weeks before I heard the news. Then I regret didn't like tell him a few things. You know, we met many occasions during trade shows. Every time we bonded, it was always fun. And every time I met him, every time I see him, he's like, Christian, how's Jimmy? Because, you know, Jimmy was never on trade shows, you know. And, you know, got down to San Diego once. He welcomed me like if I was a brother, you know. It's just crazy how good of a person he was and how good I felt when I was with him. And just sad right now. Also, the last 2 years, I didn't, you know, was stuck here because of COVID. Didn't have the chance to go out on trade shows and see him. You know, I remember my last AU, like going through the halls and like, where's Buck? You know, just looking for him. You know? So, well, thanks, Alexine. I think you're the one who introduced him to me in Toronto. I don't remember. I think it was a built in Toronto when we met for the first time.
I think you're right. I think that's the first time I met you too. See, he probably introduced us.
Yeah, probably. I remember I was at my booth. I was like, you know, look at who's that tall guy. He's like football player for sure. He's not a, you know, BIM guy. He's probably football player or something. I was like, he's, you know, I'm not gonna talk to him. He's gonna crush me or something. But then he was like, yo, man, what's up? And it's the first time I met him, you know, first time in my life. So, you know, every time we seen each other around the world, I remember in Denmark or Norway, he was like, let's go out, man. And he had some crazy plan about a lot of stuff. And it's like, man, trying to catch up to you, man. But you know, it's a little much. But yeah, I really like all the moments we've spent together. And yeah, I don't think there's anybody else I've met in my life that was like that. You know, it's like 1 in a million type of person. So he probably has a special place for him.
For sure. You're reminding me that, you know, the yo, what's up? And I think the last time I got to see Buck in person was at the road show in Salt Lake City. And, you know, he did the same thing to me. He shouted me across the room, come over, big handshake, hug. And then you watch at least another dozen people. Like he just kept calling people out of the crowd as they filtered by and kept doing the same thing. Like he touched so many lives.
You know, the only thing I'll say, and I don't want to make you feel bad for not seeing him, Christian, but the thing that I did notice in that exact thing in Salt Lake City, Travis, was he had hit a new level. Like for those of you who don't know Buck's presenting style, it wasn't actually wasn't natural. Like the thing you heard him talk and do in person, like I got to go through this process of learning from him. And I will tell you that those moments on the stage in Salt Lake City, Travis, you were there. It was incredible. It was just so incredible to see, you know, this guy that inspired all of us, but that could just look at himself and change and adapt and grow. And, you know, it was funny because, you know, we always asked each other afterwards, oh, what could we do better? What, you know, what, and my answer was, dude, where did that come from? That was epic. Like,
yeah, kept evolving.
Yeah. And improving, you know, like how many people dudes can say you're riding the front end of the wave, but you jumped on early. I mean, who the hell here would have known what Field Lens was if Buck didn't start telling everybody about it and how it worked at Balfour and what it did. And, you know, but man, he just kept going with the craft, Christian. He just kept doing it. So,
well, I hope we're gonna, you know, I you know what, I hope I'm gonna, you know, keep a piece of him in me and have that you know, that go-getter type of you know, mentality all the time, you know, not to be afraid and just go out there and do it and, you know, trust in your abilities and be passionate, like and positive. I remember the second time we met, he gave me a full list of all his Autodesk contacts at the time. You know, it was like 30,000 people. Like most of them were not in business anymore, but still, he was like, dude, you're a nice dude. Like, you know, he got me a USB card and a stick, and he said, download that, man. All right. That was so, you know, that was Buck.
Here's my whole list of contacts.
That's it. That's what he did.
But, you know, to that point, Christian, like everybody listening in and for his family, like it's up to us to carry him on. People live on, we all end at some point, but we don't if people remember us and keep us. And that's what he would want, man. He would want you the next time you're looking at something like that to go, hey, what would Buck do here, man? Like have the guts, have that you know, mental metal to do it. And man,
next time I go on stage, I'm gonna think about that. I'll put it in my notes for you know, my presentation notes. Yeah, go and get them as Buck would do. Thanks for having me, guys. You know, I really appreciate it. It's awesome what you're doing today, and yeah, we're gonna remember him for a long time.
We will. And Christian, I look forward to when we can all toast one soon in person, man. It's been too long since we've seen you too. So, you know,
definitely.
We miss everybody here. Aaron, I was trying to ask you if you want which one of you. There's 4 Aaron Maulers, which I'm guessing means you shared your link. Because Aaron's got a lot of stories, and I'd love to bring them back up. And it's everyone from Parallax. Yeah,
right, yeah.
I can imagine it. There he is.
There's a few shared links, but that's okay.
Okay.
I don't mind. Christian was Alexine again on me, and I was like, you know what? Hey. If she wants to talk again, she's welcome to come back up anytime. So, Christian, man, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian.
I have to tell one of my favorites was actually was it St. Louis? It must have been St. Louis. We were all traveling to Built, and my family's up in New York and I'm down in Dallas. So I haven't seen my folks much in their later years just because of the distance. So they were taking the train to meet my little ones for the first time. They got in the night before. So I flew in with the whole family. We take an Uber and we're in the hotel lobby looking for my folks. And there's my dad, who's, you know, obviously like 35 years my senior. And I see Buck on the other side of the elevator lobby. And so I raise my hand, you know, as if to say hello, but I'm saying hi to my dad, who I haven't seen in several years. And next thing I know, Buck walks over and shakes hands and hugs my dad. And I'm like, what am I missing here? And he was just like, it was an interesting, they had met the night before because they were both in the hotel, like having dinner because they were in town for the event.
Of course he met
and Buck starts chatting up my father. And you have to understand, I mean, I'm not a big guy like Buck was, but my father is like 5'4". He's obviously older, a doctor. He looks nothing like me. And they started talking about whatever and hung out till 3 a.m. talking about their different fields. And my dad was talking about medicine and Buck was explaining about these computers. And I'm just sitting here going, what the hell's going on right here? All right, you guys have fun. I'll talk to you later. You don't need me here.
That's a great story.
It was hilarious. They hung out for the whole week.
Buck definitely didn't need a friend around because he was going to find one pretty damn quick. Oh, that's hilarious.
That's great. Thank you.
But here's my question, because the end of most of those Buck stories, did you find your father's jacket on the back of the chair in the hotel lobby? Because, well, when you left, you weren't quite as clear as you were going in. And I won't out the person who that happened to, but just know that's a good story in my head.
There was the me, Buck, and Alexine story, which we were just joking about in the chat, which really had more to do with just how vibrant Buck was. I just have to tell this one because it's great, and then I'll stop hogging the time. But it was Aarhus at like 2 a.m, and we were hanging out in like the hotel bar, and everybody was talking, and somebody had engaged Buck in a conversation and maybe said something not very cool. And then that person had moved on to me and said something not very cool. And we were both like very animated, like, what's going on? Who would say something like that? But then, so Buck and I were together and we were talking at each other about it, just kind of laughing about it. But, we're both kind of animated. So we're like being vibrant and talking with our hands and doing this. And, Buck is like 3 times my size and, I'm stupid. So I kind of, from a distance, I look like I'm getting in Buck's face, which I'm totally not doing. Right. But Alexine comes running over from across the hotel bar and just be like, and what are we talking about? The two of you. And I'm just like, it was such a perfect moment because I'm looking around like, this guy over here, and Buck's like, yeah, that guy. And Alexine's like, oh, you guys aren't mad at each other. Cool. Okay. It was just such a great moment.
Those are those moments, right? That instant a part of it all, right? Yeah. Aaron, we all miss him, man.
We all miss him.
Yeah, I it was mentioned before, Christian mentioned it, like, I know we're all going to have regrets. Everybody has his regrets about the times you didn't do or say or just engage at that moment. That's an unfortunate part of life, but just take a moment in the future to do something for them. Good. Thank you guys for keeping me on track. Oh, there he is. Lonnie. Lonnie.
So good to see Lonnie.
So good to see Lonnie.
Yeah. But no, keep those thoughts forward. There you are. We don't got your audio yet though, Lonnie.
No audio yet?
There we go.
You got the audio.
Technology's hard.
It is.
Not as hard as this is.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, so it's such an interesting thing. Loss. God. I think all I can say is, thank God I knew the man. Knew him for the time. loved him, trusted him. I'm just gonna miss him. I think that's about all I can get out.
It's all right, man. That's part of it. Yeah, I remember the first time I met you with him, Lonnie, was Kansas City on the stage when you guys did that co-presented at the road show. And I thought, man, those two guys are so much fucking smarter than I am. And it's like you were talking to each other, man, not to us.
Yeah, it's I've had lots of relationships over the years. Lots of quality people, lots of inspiring people. But I honestly can't tell you when I met Buck. I don't really know, because the moment that I met him is like I knew him my whole life. It was phenomenal. I can say that some of the experiences I had with Buck, I can't share publicly.
For fear of being used against you? Are you taking the fifth, Lonnie?
Well, let's just say there's a side of me that I don't. The most I usually ever expose to folks, public or professionally, is a photograph of me when I graduated high school. But there was a time in my life when I was a roadie for bands, and let's just say that by the time I turned 18, I had had experiences that, equated to a lot, and in that aspect, Buck genuinely scared me whenever we went out just to have fun, because I knew he didn't have an off button, and I know I don't have an off button. So it was genuinely like, oh boy. We're gonna go down this road, and neither one of us know how to take our foot off the accelerator, and neither one of us know how to put our foot on the brake. But man, did we have a good time! And it's amazing to be able to know somebody that you're just a kindred spirit with, you just feel super comfortable with, and I was that way with Buck from the moment I met him, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, well said, man.
Very well said.
And if you ever want to see Lonnie like that, you got to go find him on this Contact Crew podcast on the video version, because we found a picture.
Oh no.
That's right, we did. And I'll never forget when we got it, Lonnie, that Buck turned to me and went, "Yeah, that long hair and everything still on the inside, trust me."
I mean, on the inside, that's how I still look, isn't it?
Hey, I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that's what I see in the mirror when I look.
The residual self-image, what did the Matrix call it?
I don't know. When I look in the mirror, I don't know who that person is I see, because in my mind, I still see that other person. So, but no, such fantastic, so many fantastic thoughts, so many fantastic things, and I feel weird talking about the business side of the discussion at this point, but it was also just amazing the number of times that he and I worked together. He helped me, I helped him develop plans, look at ways to attack different conversations and different industry issues, and man, I'm gonna miss that. So many times I pick up the phone and have a question that was like literally maybe a 10-minute conversation, and literally 3 hours later it'd be like, oh wow, I guess we talked about a few other things, but It's gonna be hard. Gonna be hard not to have that.
Yeah. I think we're the ones who will lose out for that one. You know, the industry in general. How many of those spitball conversations, like Alexine just said, like so many people were going for money back then and making things happen and new things and Bimbox and everything. That transformed where we're at.
I can tell you, he wasn't out for money because the amount of time he spent with me just to sell 1 or 2 computers. It's like this guy's not trying to make money. I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, if it was value for time, you were definitely getting a lot of Buck's time for the money you spent.
For sure. We were talking about how thin our margins are. If the ones he sent us, the first ones he sold to me, he couldn't have made much money because he spent a ton of time with us.
And since the chat will not be visible or be able to be heard
That's a good
online,
point.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Aaron's comment here and just say, anyone remember, this is from Aaron Mahler, anyone remember how the OG Bimbox machines, which by the way, were giant, looked normal size when Buck carried them, and then you tried to pick it up, and you were like, "I need a weight belt. I need a weight belt. I gotta lift with my legs, bend at the knees." Yeah, man. And he carried. Remember
it looks
when
so
he
normal.
Remember he would always come in, Lonnie, with 2 in hand.
2 of them. Yeah.
He had
have
one
him under his
each
arm, right? Walking through the exhibit hall.
Yeah, Aaron, that's it. Walking through I'm like, he'd hand me one and I'd be like, get this thing back. I can't carry it.
Yeah, our little doodly here doesn't do him justice for size.
We should have made his body giant.
Yeah. Giant.
Give him.
I remember at one of the AUs, I can't remember what year it was, but we had a Chihuahua that had puppies, and he wanted one of the puppies, and so I took it with me to AU, and then when I handed it to him, it was so interesting because this little puppy was not even a pound, and he like picked it up and was holding it, and it was like, wow, that is really a little dog now. It looked like, I mean, it was like in the palm of one hand type of thing. It was quite the contrast to see this larger than life in every way, shape, or form individual have this little puppy, and then just turn to it and give it an affection like you wouldn't believe. It was just amazing to see.
I'm trying to find something because you guys remember Buck went through the phase with
the corgi phase.
I think Bimbox actually posted it. I'm going to see if I can find it. But like, there's this whole thing about, we start to look like our dogs, and, we all know what he looked like. And yeah, here it is. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. So tell me he did not start to look like that corgi.
Yes, that's the
Yes,
picture.
That's it, right? Like that. I mean, we all go through those different stages in life, but I'm like, really? And you guys know he was huge, larger than life, big dude, and he's got this little bitty corgi, but he made it natural. I don't know.
That picture, they both look like they just have such a zest, and they're looking like they're going to go out and change somebody's lives in that one. Both of them big smiles on their faces.
with that little touch of like, we might cause a little trouble along
Yeah,
the
right.
way.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the that's part of the journey,
Right?
for sure.
Part of the edge of it all, right?
I think that was his way of really getting to know somebody. He had a way of cutting through the bullshit part, just like it's like, I want to see you for what you really are. We're going to hang out and we're going to find out exactly who you are as a person. And I think he had a really good way of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He had a way of getting you going too. I mean,
yeah.
let's just be honest too. He's also the only guy. I mean, I wish I had some more of my boys here from the crew, but I got to tell the AU story. because most of you probably know what happened, but don't know how it happened. For those of you that remember what the ESPN, do you guys remember at ESPN they used to like wear their suits up top, but because they had a desk, everybody wore shorts, right? Okay, so this was like, and Rob McKinney's like the king of we have to pull stunts at AU as the crew. And so he tells us all ahead of time, we're going to do the Sports Center thing. We're going to do the Sports Center thing. And of course, you know, me and Bone and James, we knew what that meant, you know, so we showed up and we're in our little, what was it? The media room. And we all had these media passes. So Buck joins us in the media room. We're like, all right, let's go get ready. You know, let's go. And he's like, what do you mean get ready? He's like, just take your pants off. And the rest of us are like, no, dude, you put on shorts. And he was like, no, man, boxers.
And of course he did it.
He did it.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. And these two people will probably kill me for this one. But he and I went and interviewed Sarah Hodges from Autodesk and Andy Leak from Peric on the show floor as we and come on, Buck was huge. As we're walking through, people are, I mean, the ripple ahead of us. And as you would pass a row, people would run around the other row. And I'm thinking that Aaron just shared a picture of this.
Yes, he just shared a picture of this. You have to share that picture.
Let's put it up. Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Here we go.
And you have to read the thread of comments that go along with the posts.
Okay, can you all see it? What's more surprising, Buck's wearing sock suspenders or Buck's just wearing underwear? Aaron, I'm betting he borrowed them. Which one? Yes. Yeah, that's pretty well true. So he walked with me through AU and never changed his face. Did the interview, did everything.
He wasn't embarrassed at all. It was not a problem for him. Yeah.
Well, and to give you an idea, I mean, you probably didn't need to be given that crew of guys right there. Yeah, that was AU 2018, I think, was that stunt.
I think
2017.
17.
Was it 17?
Mm-hmm.
We only know this because we read the Twitter.
Right.
Yeah, okay, because we read the Twitter. So it was 16 that he and I did the first day, and 17 that we did that. And yeah, Nathan, he is a rock star. If BIM has a Hall of Fame rock stars in the industry,
Oh, he's got to be there.
He's
right?
in there.
Be there.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
What do they call that? The first ballot.
First
inductee
ballot
or
Hall of
whatever?
Famer.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds like we need to get busy. We need to start creating that, I think. Yeah.
We'll call it the I don't know, Construction Dorks Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, definitely a first ballot.
First ballot. Unanimous decision.
By the power vested in me, I
By
now
what-
annoy you.
By what little power I have.
By what little power I'll ever have, man.
If we were going to knight somebody as a dork, what would we use? Graphics
Ooh.
card?
Probably a graphics card. Oh no, I think he's grabbing the sword.
Uh-oh.
I was
He's
gonna
got
say,
it. Here we go.
Oh, the lightsaber. Yes.
It would have to be a lightsaber.
It would have to be a lightsaber.
You are so right. You're so right.
Oh,
Well, okay. Well,
All
now
right.
we know.
asked and answered.
He's knighted.
and knowing is half the battle.
The problem with the lightsaber is you got to be careful with the dubbing. You know,
He was a tall dude. You got to watch that.
there's
I W E of two missing arms. Sorry.
there's no dull end of the lightsaber.
Yeah, I think that's probably the only way I could reach his shoulders would be to have that.
Or a ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, those were the days.
You know, we all talk about like we go to these shows and there were where I saw Buck all the time, and we talk about making relationships, but we don't do that the way he did, right? Like we really don't. Like when he went to the show, he came back with 20 friends, 50 friends. You know, he had 6 adventures over 6 days. He's 6 adventures over 3 days. But you know, no, it's really that he did what we were supposed to do. You know, he went there, and you know, you can learn all this stuff online, or you can take a class or whatever else. When we go to those things, it's about making friends, and it's about moving people forward. It's about all the things that he did, and having confidence in the other people in the industry. And
Yeah,
he was really powerful.
I think you actually said it so accurately. There is the difference in most people when they go to a conference or they go somewhere, they collect contacts, and Buck didn't collect contacts. Buck collected friends.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. You know, I mean, it's a stupid thing, but this is for his family and for Rhett. And I do a lot of this stuff online, right? You know, post a lot of things, and you can always see the reach of the person that you're sharing about. And when we finally got the news and shared that and this, they went farther than anything I've ever put out there. I mean, it just, the response, the number of people that he touched, the surprise that I had at people who LinkedIn messaged me, who replied to it, who replied to all the other people who shared it. I spent an entire few hours just reading them all, and went, man, you think you got to reach, and then you come across somebody like him, so special, that has just such an impact. And Lonnie, you nailed it. He collected friends. Every one of us here feels like, you know, we were his closest friend at any given time. And then you find out something new about him from somebody else.
There's nothing easy about any of this, right? I mean,
no.
And you don't even have to be somebody that spent a lot of time with the guy. That's what we keep saying. We never, you know, I know Travis, you're in the same boat as me. I mean, we spent much of our younger adult lives in the military, and there were always friends and colleagues that you lost along the way. And like this one felt very the same. I mean, you know, when you heard the news, it was that same gut wrench, that same sinking feeling where you're like, oh my God, like, you know, like you really, like you had worked side by side with the guy for that long, even though I really didn't. So it's tough.
Yeah.
There's nothing easy about any of it, but I think we have to, as the dorks and as the community that we've built and that we're doing here, we got to be more like Buck, right? I mean, we need to help each other. We need to build friendships and try to push each other to the top of our game. That's really what he always did. It wasn't about how high he could go. It was about how high everyone around him could go.
I think he also, I mean, I go back to the first couple of times that I met him in the exhibit halls, and part of that night in Aarhus, when we had that encounter in the bar at 2 a.m, it was funny because the person we were joking about was commenting on Buck's style of how he worked in the exhibit hall, because he actually didn't really ever have an actual booth, but that his whole method of let's make friends and then help each other along the way really resonated. And that was part of the joke of why he was always carrying those computers. What always struck me as interesting is he was carrying them because he was basically giving them to people. But that was kind of his way, is like, hey, something broke in your booth, here, take one of ours. Later, let's catch up and have a few drinks and we'll just whatever. And like, you know, as people gravitated to him, it was kind of interesting because that was not like even in MO, that was just who he was. But it was a great way to connect with people. Like, you can try to market to contacts all day long, but when Buck would just pull somebody in and then they'd happen to talk shop and somebody would learn something from him, it was just kind of like this magnetism sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, you're right, Aaron. I think it was like an Enscape booth where he like walked up and it wasn't something wasn't working, and he's just like, all right, here's a BIM box. He didn't have a booth, just threw it in, hooked it up, watched it power it, and then he starts talking about Enscape.
Sure.
And of course, it's running on a BIM box. You're right. It wasn't some tactic. It was
Right.
I got one under each arm. Who needs
it? But it was also really interesting because, I mean, it was actually a great method to both make friends and get work done. I mean, so like I said, Buck and I met because I peeked through a curtain. He was talking about chicken wings, and I went to school in Buffalo. I'm obsessed with chicken wings. So I was like, oh, I need to see who that is. And I peeked through this curtain, and there's this, giant person here. And I'm like, how do you look like that after eating chicken wings? Because I eat chicken wings and I don't look like that. Anyways, but then, yeah, like, 20 minutes later, he's carrying these monster machines around the booth, and he's like, do you need one? And I was just like, what's he up to? But it was so great because, I mean, yeah, you connected with him like almost instantly. And the Enscape booths. So I remember BIM Street, that the first time, and I forget which event we first did that in, was not my idea. I believe it was either Alexine or Buck that dreamt that up. And we were just along for the ride. But yeah, it was this fantastic approach of like, one of his machines is over there and one's over there and one's over there. And people would come into our booth and ask about it. And I would be like, no, go talk to the really tall guy. You'll find him over there. Yeah, it was just phenomenal. Magnetism is really all I can say when I think about Buck.
Yeah.
Magnetism. What a good word. Yeah.
Magnetism. It is. Yeah.
I think that's, in every way, that's very fitting of who he was, for sure.
You got away with those word thingies there, Aaron.
Yeah. You're pretty good at this.
They're not all me, just to give credit to the team. I know like I did share the link because all of us loved Buck in kind of a different way. So I know like all 4 or 5 of us are posting in the chat, and they all just say they're me.
That's all right. Take credit, man. Take credit. It's all right. No, I want to give anybody who hasn't raised their hand, or if you want to raise your hand, feel free to raise your hand. Because we're getting to the point where we're going to wrap this thing up. But with that, I just wanted to give anybody a last second. Lonnie, it looks like you got something you want to do there.
Well, everybody else has had some drinks, so I thought I'd open a fresh bottle and join everybody in a nice drink. So
I love that sound, by the way. Yeah.
No.
To everybody, my friends. Love
Hey.
the man.
Hey.
Gonna miss the man.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So I don't see hand. Well, let me make sure. I don't see hands coming up. So with that, I just kind of want to send us off and just tell you a little bit about my final experience with Buck from the beginning. We went through a lot together early on, coming in, cutting our teeth, getting things done. I wouldn't be at this point in my life without him. And I know I'm not alone, especially after listening to everybody today. And life is really, really short. So take a look around, be there for everybody, hug everybody, love them, because, man, that's what we're here for. And the thing I want, Buck, you, brother, and your family to take home with you is the ride's not over. You've touched every single solitary one of us. I'll never forget you, brother. I love you, man. I love all of y'all. And with that, here's one last one to him, man. Make friends and help people. To Buck Davis.
Buck Davis.
Buck Davis.
Make friends, help people.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
This has been episode 46, a tribute to Buck Davis. Make friends and help people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.